Thetis, the most radiant silver-footed goddess dwelling deep within the quiet abyss of the ocean, was also the loneliest mother in all Greek mythology, bound by a haunting prophecy powerful enough to shake the very foundation of the divine realm. She was cast by the Olympian immortals into the mortal world and forced into a human union. She foresaw the radiant glory destined for her son and also watched in sorrow as his inevitable tragic downfall lingered just beyond the horizon. Tonight, beneath the soft glow of faint flickering firelight, we wander into her magnificent underwater palace filled with endless inner struggle and gentle motherly tenderness. Within this unhurried tale that settles softly in your mind, you will hear the echoing rhythm of fate carried upon the endless rise and fall of the tides. If the gift of seeing the future is nothing more than a heavy bitter curse, Thetis bore its deepest, most agonizing weight. Without escape she walked a lonely path, trapped between the pull of heartfelt motherly love and the unyielding decree of divine oracle, striving endlessly to cleanse her infant son of his mortal flesh using the sacred waters of the underworld. Yet in the end she discovered that even as a mighty immortal goddess she possessed no power to alter a single mark written within the unchangeable script of destiny. Follow the low soothing cadence of quiet narration. Let the steady rhythm of rolling waves wash away all inner anxiety and restless worry on this calm still night. Allow Thetis' boundless maternal tenderness to soothe your weariness and cradle your spirit into gentle rest. The flames of the Trojan War faded into ash and dust thousands of years ago, yet Thetis' sorrowful haunting ballad still lingers and resonates across the quiet depths of the endless ocean. This is an eternal tale of quiet resistance, reluctant compromise, and final peaceful acceptance. She is far more than merely a mythic sea goddess. She stands as the reflection of every soul who clings stubbornly to what they love even when faced with overwhelming, unescapable fate. In this quiet, intimate conversation belonging to the night, find the steady inner calm and quiet strength you carry deep within yourself. Let Thetis' timeless story carry you across the endless surging waves, guiding your heart to the innermost peaceful harbor of the soul. Pause to imagine a life gifted with immortal divine longevity, yet granted the cruel sight of seeing an uncrossable abyss waiting at the very end of time. Would you still choose to run forward with all your heart? The unbearable sorrow of watching the one you love most drift steadily toward ruin with no power to intervene became the quiet lifelong burden of an undying goddess, even as the beloved daughter of the sea ruler wielding authority to calm and command the restless tides she could not break. Free from the ancient curse etched into the patterns of the stars, Thetis, the graceful silver-footed ocean goddess, was a name that once sent a faint tremor of dread through Zeus, the king of all Olympian gods. Tonight, accompanied by the softly flickering glow of the hearth, we follow this gentle, unhurried story and step fully into the untold life hidden behind her mythic reputation. She once stood upon the highest peaks of Mount Olympus, turning away the romantic advances of immortal gods, and later descended alone into the coldest, darkest depths of the underworld, searching desperately for a single ray of hope to alter her child's fate. Some whisper she stood as the hidden force behind the outbreak of the Trojan War. Others claim she was merely a helpless pawn trapped within the endless power games of the immortals. Yet beneath the layered rolling waves of the boundless sea, she was simply a mother, a woman who struggled silently for 1,000 years, caught between the raw instinct of maternal love and the cold, unrelenting words of divine prophecy. Long before any of the Olympian gods perceived the subtle crack forming within the order of the world, Thetis' fate had already been knotted into an unbreakable destined loop. She was far more than a beautiful, graceful sea nymph flowing with the gentle currents of the ocean. Her divine bloodline held a secret powerful enough to crumble the established balance of heaven and earth. An ancient prophecy echoed in quiet whispers across the realms, foretelling that the son born to Thetis would grow far stronger and more powerful than his own father. This single haunting prediction planted the deepest fear within the hearts of Zeus, lord of thunder, and Poseidon, ruler of the boundless seas. United in their desire to safeguard their fragile hold on divine authority, the two great kings of heaven and sea orchestrated one of the most absurd, cruel acts of forced exile in mythic history. They compelled this proud, noble goddess to marry Peleus, a mortal king of earthly realm. Her grand wedding should have been a day of joyous celebration, yet it was shrouded in grey shadow from the very beginning, tainted by the unspoken hidden schemes of the gods. In her sorrow and defiance, Thetis shifted endlessly into countless forms throughout the ceremony, transforming into raging roaring fire, fierce wild lions, and piercing freezing streams of water. She fought desperately to break free from the humiliating chains of mortal marriage, longing to escape the fate forced upon her. Yet no matter how she struggled, Peleus held fast, refusing to let her slip away, and in his unyielding embrace she felt the cold, still weight of unescapable destiny settle upon her shoulders. It was in that moment she understood for the first time that even divine power can feel fragile and powerless when confronted by the overwhelming loneliness of fate. When her son Achilles drew his first breath into the world, Thetis felt no overflowing joy of new motherhood, only a cold shudder of despair settling deep within her soul. Her prophetic sight revealed two paths laid out before the infant boy: a long ordinary mortal life lived in quiet obscurity, or a brief blazing existence crowned with eternal heroic glory yet ending in inevitable ruin. Gazing down at the small warm helpless body nestled in her arms, only one desperate thought filled her heart: she would erase every trace of mortal weakness clinging to his flesh forever. In the dead still of night, when only the soft whisper of wandering souls lingered in the air, she carried her young son down to the banks of the river Styx, the sacred dark waterway of the underworld. Its current ran icy cold enough to chill the resolve of even the mightiest gods, yet it also held the power to grant mortal beings an impenetrable immortal body. She grasped Achilles firmly by the ankle, dipping his entire form into the black mist-shrouded waters of eternal death. The sacred current flowed over every inch of the boy's skin, hardening his flesh into unbreakable divine substance, all except the single ankle locked tight within his mother's trembling grasp. Left untouched and vulnerable to mortal suffering, that small unprotected spot became a mother's final selfish reservation, the only fragile flaw she left behind within the grand unyielding script of destiny. She stood alone beside the river long after the ripples faded into stillness, an unsettling premonition lingering heavy in her heart. No matter how fiercely she strove to shield and strengthen him, the shadow of destruction woven into the ancient prophecy still hung thick like unbroken mist above Achilles' golden hair. When the echoing horns of the Trojan War resounded across the restless surface of the sea, Thetis knew the terrifying moment she had feared for years had finally arrived. She once hid Achilles away within a distant royal palace, dressing him in soft maiden garments, blending him among the king's daughters, hoping to shield him from the watchful eyes of the gods and let him live out a quiet, unknown life far from battle and glory. She prayed endlessly that he might remain hidden in peaceful obscurity, sheltered from the cruel fate of a hero. Yet she overlooked the truth that she herself had forged a soul destined for honor and battlefield renown. His radiant light could never be concealed behind simple dresses and quiet seclusion. When the clever strategist Odysseus lured Achilles out of his hidden disguise, revealing his true warrior spirit, Thetis stood amid the foaming waves of the ocean, her heart shattering into countless pieces. Like falling scattered pearls, she descended into the deepest, silent abyss of her underwater palace, questioning the ancient cosmic forces in endless sorrow, unable to understand why fate would not grant a grieving mother even the smallest measure of gentle mercy. Yet the ocean answered only with silent tides and the cold, unfeeling logic of unchanging destiny. She finally yielded to the inevitable flow of fate, or rather chose to walk beside her son in a different, quiet way, accompanying him toward the downfall she could not prevent. She journeyed to seek the craftsmanship of Hephaestus, the lame fire god, begging him to forge an immortal shield of legendary splendor for her beloved son. Upon the surface of that sacred shield she asked the craftsman to carve the mountains and rivers of the mortal world, the twinkling stars of heaven, laboring mortals working in peaceful fields and quiet untouched countryside landscapes. She wished to gift all the beauty of the world to her child, for she knew the time he would have to gaze upon such wonders was slipping away with every passing day. At the dusk hour when Achilles fell in battle, the sea surrounding the shores of Troy blazed with a haunting crimson hue of blood and sorrow. The fatal arrow struck true, piercing directly into the very ankle his mother had once held safe, sealed by the cruel irony of destiny, completing its final mocking loop. Thetis did not scream or wail in the unrestrained grief of mortal beings. She rose slowly from the churning waves, her silver feet treading lightly across the charred, scorched earth left behind by war. Kneeling down, she cradled her son lifeless form in her arms, and in that moment her divine stature as an immortal goddess crumbled completely, leaving only a hollow broken mother stripped of all purpose and hope. She watched the self-proclaimed righteous gods raise their cups in celebration high upon the clouds, and an icy, bottomless cold bitterness rose within her soul. She held the grandest, most solemn funeral rites in honor of Achilles. Sea nymphs gathered from every corner of the ocean, singing mournful lambs that echoed through deep ocean trenches, stirring a vague sorrow that swept across the entire mortal continent. As the funeral flames burned bright, she watched Achilles' spirit rise like a beam of golden light, ascending peacefully toward the sacred island of fallen heroes. Yet for her there would be no such release. Endowed with eternal immortality, she was condemned to spend millions of years alone, trapped with the sharp, painful memory of a fate she had foreseen yet could never prevent. She returned to her magnificent underwater palace, its halls still grand, still wrapped in profound silence, yet every crash of the waves against the stone walls seemed to whisper her son's name into the quiet air. That gift of endless eternal life became the cruelest punishment the gods could bestow upon her the moment she lost the child who gave her existence true meaning. Now the raging fires of Troy have long faded into the dust of 2,000 years, yet Thetis' haunting story still drifts upon the endless rhythm of the tide. She reveals to us that even beings as powerful and divine as the Olympian immortals can bow to humble desperate pleading and stubborn longing when faced with unescapable fate. This quiet struggle itself may well be the most touching radiant light hidden within the journey of life. Tonight surrender all your anxious thoughts of the future, all your lingering regret over what cannot be undone, and let them drift away upon the distant fading waves of Thetis' timeless tale. Deep within the dark blue quiet depths of the ocean she still watches gently over every weary wandering soul, teaching us to find inner peace and calm acceptance within the narrow cracks of unchanging destiny. Moonlight spills softly across the surface of the sea, and the rolling waves grow lighter, slower and more distant, with every passing moment like Thetis' final quiet sigh. The gentle breeze brushes softly against your hair, carrying away the last trace of unrest and sorrow hidden in your heart. Within this quiet, unassuming stillness that lingers without need of remembrance, close your eyes and let your consciousness sink slowly into the warm, calming waters of peaceful rest. The gate of dreams stands open before you, a realm free from cold prophecies and cruel fate, filled only with the quiet tranquility that belongs solely to you. Good night and sweet dreams.